You will get napkins and
Okay, Jackie, please. Recording. Hello, Nick.
Hey, where is everybody?
Harry is just joining.
Okay. Or am I just on time for once?
You are early. Mr. Parker?
How do?
Hello.
So, Nick, I have this live streaming on YouTube.
Okay.
It was kind of a cluster to get it to go. But you have thankfully agreed to do notes for tonight. So thank you.
Yeah, I'll do my best. Open a Word document now. Let's see. Close that.
Hi, Sharon.
Greetings. How are you?
I'm good. I'm in a hotel room in La Grande.
Oh,
Gonna
goody.
babysit the grandkids tomorrow.
Oh, fun. I've been to La Grande for a while.
Yeah, years ago I stayed in La Grande. Myself and a friend did a whole bunch of snow photography in the wintertime of the railroad down there. Going over the Blue Mountains, we stayed in La Grande.
Fun.
What's that?
It doesn't really help, but oh well. All right. How long are you going to be there, Kelly?
One day. We're
Oh.
babysitting on Friday, and then we are headed to a celebration of life service outside of Spokane, Washington.
Oh. Well,
Hi, Andrew. But I got to babysit baby Jack, who is a year and a half, for 4 days this week in Portland.
wow.
4 days.
Are you still have most of your hair?
Not really, but thank you, Sharon. Hi, Andrew.
Hello, how are you doing?
Good, good.
Andrew, this is Sharon. I wanted to tell you I got your email with the bylaws in it, and I will look at it. I've been gone for a number of days, but I will look at it.
Okay, yeah, no worries. There are two versions, one in Outlook and one in Google. And I think unless you have an Outlook email address, you can't access that one.
I do have an Outlook email address. I'm not sure. I think you sent it to my private email address. So I'm on the land use committee. If you could look in there and see me in there, if you need to do that.
Yeah, okay, then I can get you on the
Yeah.
Okay, let me see if I can find that.
It was interesting. I'm at the Midland Library parking lot. And when I got here a little early because I wanted to go inside and do a couple of things so I didn't run out of battery time out here. and there was a cop sitting in the parking lot with his lights going. And when I came out, there was a tow truck hooking up a pickup. I imagine it was a stolen pickup.
Mm. Stolen cars everywhere on Nextdoor, so it seems.
Well, they were showing tonight on one of the newses, I guess it was Channel 2, they supposedly have cleaned up 33rd Drive, which was a total disaster mess. And one picture they showed, there was a Mercedes that it looked like it had been chopped.
Sharon, can you send me your email, that Outlook email? I can't find it.
Oh, all right, I can do that.
Thank you.
When
So
you,
Zachary will not be joining us tonight. He
Oh.
has some kind of a conflict.
oh, all right, I didn't realize that. Andrew,
Yes.
when the email you sent to me, it looked like it came from a Google something or other. It says, yeah, Andrew.
Yeah, so yeah, I shared that through my personal account, that version.
So, but it says drive shares DM no reply at google.com. But that's
Yeah.
not your personal, that's not an email, that's something through Google.
Yeah, so that's just the sharing mechanism to alert
Oh,
me.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right, I'll figure this out. I'll work on this tomorrow.
Okay.
I've been driving for, oh, I see, aduchan@gmail.com.
Yes.
That's you. Okay. All right.
Great.
Okay, I think we're going to get started. If somebody else joins, that's great. So I am Kelly Davis. I'm co-chair of the Land Use and Transportation Committee for Rose City Park. Nick, will you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Nick, on the Land Use and Transportation Committee. I'll do my best to take notes tonight. And live at 51st and Broadway. Terry.
Terry Parker, board member, Land Use and Transportation Committee member, and rep to the CNN Land Use and Transportation Committee. Sharon.
I'm Sharon Fuchs. I'm on the Land Use and Transportation Committee. Susan Ferguson is on.
Yes, I am. Hi.
Hi.
I am a neighborhood member. I live on Sacramento between 61st and 62nd. And I'm going to pass this to Ben Joy.
Okay, hold on. I'm trying to start my video. Hi, Ben Joy, neighborhood member and member of the Land Use and Transportation Committee. Live on 64th, just off of Sacramento.
Okay, Ben, pass to Jules.
I'm sorry, to Jules, my friend. Our kids grew up together in the neighborhood. To you, Jules.
Hi, Ben. Let's see if I can start. There I am. I'm Jules Fedota. My dog is barking loudly, so I'll go back on mute, but I'm just interested in just keeping a pulse on the neighborhood, and we live on Alameda at 55th. And I'll pass it to whoever hasn't gone. I'm not really
Jenny.
seeing. Am I the last one?
I think Jenny Lyman.
Hey there, I'm Jenny Lyman, Land Use and Transportation Committee member, and I live at 63rd and Broadway. And I'm gonna keep my video off tonight because I've been away for work for 3 days and just got home like 5 minutes ago.
Well, thank you for joining us, Jenny.
I don't
Multitasking
think
tonight.
Andrew's introduced himself. I don't think
Andrew,
Andrew's
it's your
introduced-
turn.
There we go. Hi, I'm Andrew Duchan at 51st and Tillamook and part of the LU&TC.
Okay, I am gonna forego the land acknowledgement statements and the neighborhood agreement statements if nobody protests. Hearing none. The agenda. Anybody, did people see the agenda? Anybody have any additions or corrections to the agenda?
I was going to state that in reviewing the minutes from July, there were a couple of things at the very bottom of the minutes that we were going to put through to the August meeting. And I thought 57th and Alameda was one of them. And I don't see it on our current agenda. Go ahead.
So I have a look under updates. I will add Alameda because I just got a email from Scott Cohen today about that project. So we'll talk about that.
Are we the agenda? I've got an item to add the agenda.
Okay, Terry.
Just, in fact, I could say it now and then it won't even be on the agenda. Just there's some new speed bumps in the area. And 62nd from Halsey, I'm not sure how far they go, probably down to the park. And Tillamook from 62nd to 72nd, they put in speed bumps. That's really all I wanted to say.
Okay.
Speed bumps on Halsey?
No. On 62nd, they were putting one in between Halsey and Broadway. And I don't know if they're going to move them, put them, how far down they're going to go. In front of the park, I think it's a concrete. Well, it's actually, the street is concrete underneath, and I'm not sure if they put them on concrete. So I'm not sure how far down to Thompson they're going to put the speed bumps. I just saw them putting in the ones on Tillamook are already in. Jenny has her hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that's right in the area that I live. And I have heard so much positive feedback from folks. Like, definitely someone on my block sent a message to every single person on my block, like, I'm so excited. So I know people living in the immediate vicinity, at least generally, the folks that I've talked to, probably 10 or 12 different people are super, super excited about some traffic calming around here.
I'll tell you personally, I hate speed bumps. The majority of the time I have stuff that I'm carrying in my car and it bounces. I watched a school bus, one of those little short cutaways, go over a speed bump on Tillamook, and his front bumper practically scraped the ground. It bounced so hard.
Well, they're supposed to make us slow down. Then we don't bounce so hard.
Well, I think it'll be important to have those down there if they close off northbound on 72nd, because there's going to be far more, there's 1,200 cars a day that come up through there that are going to be flowing through that area.
Yeah, they'll be going up.
It's important to take those steps.
Hill. Yep, half of them will be going up Snake Hill or 60th, and the other half probably on 82nd.
Yeah.
We've got on Alameda between 57th and Fremont, where it kind of meanders like that. There's paint, it looks like, in preparation for speed bumps, which is interesting just because I thought they wouldn't put speed bumps on Alameda because of emergency vehicles, but it looks like the exact, and I don't care either way, it's just an observation, but it's a very methodical, very kind of consistent spacing between the two that looks like we're going to get some soon too.
Yeah, I've seen those markings as well, and I figured they were for speed bumps.
Guessing.
It was
Yeah.
about a week and a half ago that I saw them.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay, moving right along. We have minutes from the July 21st meeting. I won't pull those up. I do have one correction to the minutes that Nick suggested. And so I will incorporate that. Anybody else have any changes to the minutes or?
I wanted to ask a question under 10, the slow streets, discussion of traffic calming at 64th and Brazee. And item L, it says Jenny stated that Safe Routes to School project was widely communicated to neighbors through flyers and other communications. Did Jenny say that? Jenny, did you say that?
No, I think what I talked about, or I don't know, what I remember talking about was the meetings that they were saying that they held at the schools with schools about the safe routes to schools.
Right. And I think Abra McNair had, when we had questioned her as to how that came about at 64th and Brazil, she kind of backpedaled on numerous things and said, oh, maybe it happened at the schools. So I would correct that, because there were no flyers to the neighbors, and there were no other direct communications with the neighbors, and there was nothing that zero that came through the neighborhood association at all. So
Okay,
you can
I do think there were 3 neighbors that got something about
right, and
the-
that's in the notes. Sharon thought
Okay.
notice the candlesticks only went to 3 neighbors. That's right. But as far as the safe routes to school thing, there was nothing.
So if that's like quoting me, I mean, I'm fine with that being revised to say that, you know, I said that was handled. I feel like we heard that pretty strongly, is that was handled at the school level with the people utilizing.
Yeah, just correct the notes if
Okay.
if you could do that. And other than that, I thought it looked good.
okay, thank you. Okay, under new business.
You need a motion to approve the minutes as corrected.
Oh, that would be a good idea.
Okay.
Do I have a motion?
Move the minutes, I move that motion.
Okay, Terry moves that the minutes be approved with those corrections that have been noted. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
any opposed? Okay, thank you all. Okay, new business. Replacement for Tamara. We talked at the last meeting, which was I guess in July, because the August meeting I was on vacation at the beach and I couldn't get anyone to step up to chair the meeting, so we didn't have one. Anyway, do I have anybody that might be interested in being a co-chair with me on the committee? Don't everybody raise their hand at once.
Kelly, if we ever go back to in-person meetings, I wouldn't mind chairing a meeting, but I don't want to chair a Zoom meeting because I'm not that tech savvy. So I'll throw that out, but it's got to be an in-person meeting. I've chaired in-person meetings before.
So you need to be able to screen share and things of that nature, know what you're doing. Is that what you're talking?
I have not had any training on Zoom. I'm winging it every time.
So what we really need is, if I drop dead tomorrow, is we need somebody that would run the meetings, maybe at least as an emergency backup. And I could train them how to do the Zoom. Just as a side note, I did reach out to CNN to see if they had the equipment to do a combination of a Zoom meeting and an in-person meeting. So I have not heard back from her again as to what the status is there. So right now we're going to do Zoom meetings until we have the ability to do hybrids.
So Zach reached out to me. It was odd because he sent an email and there was a 1-week delay between when he sent it and when I received it. So some server was being slow or not sending. And he asked a question about that because at our church, we have the capability to do that. We could still Zoom if we take a laptop and just turn it around and have it go to the people that are sitting up assuming people are lined up at a table at the front. We can just use a laptop and Zoom it out, and just like we're doing now, but a bunch of us would be in person.
So Sharon, you're the one that
Can I say something about that real quick?
prefers to do a Zoom meeting. Okay, Jenny.
So I have tried those kind of hybrid meetings where some people are in Zoom and some people are calling in at my new job. And it honestly, I don't think it works with just a laptop. So what happens is that the people that aren't sitting very close, like laptop volume only goes so high, and the speakers aren't able to be heard on the other end if they're not close. So there is additional technology that I used at my past job that makes hybrid meetings work really well. But if it's just a laptop, I'm just gonna say from experience, it's really hard for the people that aren't in the room.
So I can supply an interface that goes between a laptop that converts USB into HDMI. If somebody has a nice camera, could be.
It's the sound. It's the audio that's a problem. It's not the video. It's not the video.
Yeah, but so cameras have audio on them, and we did it. We streamed it for 6 months at our church, and it's possible to have it. You can plug in outside cameras into the camera. Outside mics into the camera as well. It does require additional, and it is more complex, and it really requires somebody to manage the technology. And I do that every Sunday, and I'm not willing to do it here also. I mean, it's on top of my job and my family and everything. So if we had somebody that could do the tech, I could help supply some of the equipment. But we use a thing called OBS, and we stream it out, and it's not interactive like this, but we could still use Zoom, and we could plug in a camera and a different microphone. But it's not as simple as logging in and typing in a 12-digit code. So it takes somebody that can manage that.
And you have to be in the room at the meeting to do that.
Yes, yes.
So I think we're going to put this on hold until I hear back from CNN as to what the status of their equipment acquisition is and whatever training might happen. So we're going to continue to Zoom until further notice, I guess.
Okay,
Unfortunately.
You were going to ask me a question. I was the one that asked for accommodation to continue with hybrid meetings. And of course, it's been really hit and miss. Even Tamara got COVID, and it was just all sort of crazy stuff. New vaccine is out, whether people care or not. I care. I'll be getting that very soon. So I'll be feeling more comfortable myself being in person. For others, parents who have children or other obligations that need to be, other people that need to be home and can't attend a meeting, it's awfully nice to have the Zoom as an option. I don't know if YouTube is still happening. Is this currently being streamed on YouTube or?
It is.
It is. Okay. So that's still an option. So people can attend. They just can't speak, right? When they're on YouTube, they just listen.
Correct.
Yeah.
If I was really on top of it, I would go to the YouTube and see if there was people that had questions or something on YouTube.
Right. Okay. So
anyway. Why don't I send out an email to the board, or excuse me, to the members of the land use committee, and I'll take an informal poll as to whether or not people are comfortable, everybody's comfortable at being an in-person meeting in November. And then we'll respond accordingly. I would still like.
Sorry, I was going to add a footnote to Sharon's comment. I walked in yesterday to Credina. It's over at 5050 Hoyt, over by Providence. Walk-in clinic, second floor, room 222. Got the new Omicron shot. No waiting. So if you want to get the shot,
nice.
Thank you. Yeah. That care pharmacy across or near Trader Joe's is a walk-in too. That's great. Thank you for that, Ben.
You're welcome.
So I'd still entertain a volunteer to be backup to Kelly if I chair these meetings and Nick does the notes. then I just need maybe a backup in case I get hit by a bus. So think about that. And if you're interested or have questions about that, email me. Otherwise, I'm going to make Sharon do it. Okay. Thank you, Nick, for being the note taker. I appreciate that very much. I am getting very bored with talking about PBOT forever, for months and months and months. So I'm thinking maybe we invite a guest speaker to our October or our November meeting. Just throwing that out there. Somebody that might be interesting. Maybe somebody from the Bureau of Planning or PBOT. Well, I don't want PBOT anymore. Tired of PBOT. Sorry.
Yeah, what kind of people have you had in the past?
None.
Oh. Okay.
We've never had a speaker at our land use meetings.
Not that I ever remember.
Well, mainly
We've had
from,
developers come. We've had various presentations. So we've had, TriMet come and developers that are doing, like the people that did the apartment buildings, on 51st and 47th. So we've had various people come and present projects, but we've never reached out to a guest speaker. And I guess I'm thinking that unless we have a development in the neighborhood or another idea for the agenda, I just like to add a little spice to the meetings.
You know what I would like? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and I know this is PBOT again, but I heard something about PBOT requiring the ability to charge electric vehicles with new apartment buildings that have parking, and possibly having some sort of stuff on the street in residential areas. I don't know anything about it. I don't know how far along that is, but it's something that's coming up. I mean, my own feeling is that people are that there should be parking required with some of these new buildings. And I'm kind of watching for that, because I'm hoping that there's a public hearing on it at City Hall. But that's just another issue that's going to come up that will affect us in a way. I understand it's PBOT. Maybe it's too early to even talk about it. But
could there be some issues that affect our neighborhood? Tree canopy, maybe people from the Bluff Restoration Project, maybe Portland Water Bureau, and talk about water shortages.
Well, those sound more like general meeting topics, Sharon. I guess I'm
Perhaps.
looking at something that's more specific to land use and transportation. Transportation is TriMet and PBOT. Land use is developments in the neighborhood.
Kelly, there was a really great presentation at one of the CNN, I went to the CNN meetings for just 6 months or so. There was a really great one that the Portland Fire did about just kind of general building safety awareness, for residential structures, that I thought was super informative. And I guess that falls under the land use sort of arm, but I felt like it was a huge benefit to, safety awareness for all of us. But I don't know if you can make that fit into that was in the CNN Land Use and Transportation Committee meeting. So they must have decided it fit in that realm, but I don't know quite how.
Or urban wildfires.
Was that in land use, or was that in one of their board meetings? Because I don't remember that, and I'm the rep. I don't remember Fire Bureau.
Yeah, it was in one of the Transportation and Land Use Committee meetings.
Okay. So, shall we explore that?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I think so. I would add another topic onto there. I would love to know how Glendevere manages having a walking path all the way around the golf course, how they interface having I'm going to say a nice restaurant, Bearlick, or not Bearlick, Bon Ebert is there. And I would love to look at how we can make our area with the golf course, you know, kind of develop a plan to make it more, just that more people can use it except golfers.
More activated.
Yeah, a walking path. You know, my kids want it to be Frisbee golf, a nice restaurant to walk down to, you know, brew pub, something more than what it is. It's a lot of land right now that's used by just a few.
Well, they do Frisbee
And
golf on
there
the
is
back
a-
nine.
There is a study to put, that has been funded to put a path around Rose City Golf Course. I believe it's Metro funding, but I'm not positive. That was how I got involved with the community day to begin with that they had. And I don't know how far along it is. I think the money is just to study the path and it will, you know, how it fits in. So
Well, that'd
it
be-
might be, Metro might be the one to call on that.
That'd be really interesting to have them let us know where it's at. Because I think that would be such
Yeah.
to have a multi-use path around the golf course would be outstanding.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be all fenced in. There would be access points at various locations. You know, there's a fence around a good portion of the golf course now. It's been a while since I've heard about it. It was, you know, several months ago, but it is under study, so that might be something that we could invite somebody to come and talk about. As far as
So
the
other than-
restaurant, I was gonna say, as far as the restaurant's concerned, you might be kind of stepping on Hank and Hank Jr.'s toes that run the concessions there. That I guess a lot of people do come and have breakfast and eat in the clubhouse.
Hot dogs and chips are great, but let's do something more than that more of the neighborhood would show up. So I think that we should have a vision of what this is. We have this wonderful resource, all these families that are involved, and it should be inclusive for all of us to use it more. And I think I see that is the reason I would want to be a part of this, is that we could come up with a vision and invite people who have been down these paths, and maybe we could develop a vision, and then when things come up, you know, does that fit into the direction we want it to go?
Good
So
idea.
Ben, do you want to reach out to Glendevere and see if you can find out something?
Yes. No, I only say that hesitantly. I'm hitting the peak of my workload for the year over the next month. And so I apologize for being hesitant to step forward really quickly, but if maybe we could bounce emails back and forth and figure out who I reach out to when I have a moment.
Okay, and it doesn't have to be right away. It could be, you know, a couple of months away.
Okay. Yeah, I would, since I'm complaining about it, I should take ownership and reach out. So I'll take
Okay.
it.
Other than cold calling Metro, Terry, do you have an idea as to how we find out more about this path?
Isn't it Portland Parks? Be Portland Parks. They
Yeah,
own the golf course,
Yeah,
and they.
Vincent, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
It's
interrupt.
Portland
Go
Parks.
ahead.
I think it's Portland Parks.
Yeah, Vincent that's over the golf courses and was involved with the community day, and I've got his email someplace, so I can email him and see what kind of a response I get. He was the one that was planning the community day, and he knows probably as much as anybody about the path. I don't remember his last name. I apologize. First name's Vincent.
Was the first group Metro? Is that what you guys said? I don't know these.
Well, Metro is funding the study from what I understand, but the study is probably being done by Portland Parks. So, and Vincent is over the golf courses in the city. So he would be a likely person, and he knows about it. I mean, that's where I've got most of my information is at the meetings for the community day, because it came up. They were going to discuss it more at the community day, and I guess it's I'm surprised we didn't have a table there to talk about it at
Well,
this point.
I will reach out to Metro because a good friend of mine whose kids also grew up with mine, Paul Slyman, is general manager at major projects at Metro. So I'll reach out to Paul and see if he can help us.
And I'll contact
Nothing
him.
else, find a direction.
Okay, sounds great.
Okay.
Okay, any other new business items? Of course, we added a couple of things in the agenda. So other than that, any other new business items? Okay, I'm going to move on to the unimproved streets in Rose City Park. So Raymond is frustrated with us, and I think he had a conflict tonight, so is not attending. Zachary made some adjustments to the letters that Raymond put together for the Parks Bureau and for the commissioners. And I was unable to access those redrafted letters because of some Google Doc problems. So I guess what tonight I'd like to discuss is whether or not we're actually going to send these letters or if we're not. If we have the letters that don't make reference to any of the neighbors' properties and only deals with the Parks Bureau, would the committee be okay with that?
I'd be fine with that. Could we see the letter first before we hold a vote?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's what we had discussed several months ago.
Okay, so I think the last letters that we looked at had still references to the routes to the parks.
Yes.
So if we get rid of the routes to the park and we only deal with the parks, then I will work with Zachary to redraft the letters.
Great.
Okay.
You're groovy, Kelly. All right.
Okay, safe routes to school, Sacramento at 64th, candlesticks versus concrete planters. So I may or may not be successful in sharing my screen, so be patient, people.
PBOT got back to you with their approved draft?
They did?
Good.
Look
There
at
you
those
go.
cute grandchildren. So can you see that?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they have proceeded with this 7-bollard layout. According to Scott Cohen, he does not have final approval from the chief engineer for this layout, but I'm kind of intrigued with going from 13 planters to 7. It doesn't seem nearly as intense.
Less
To
chance
me, it's
for.
not as obtrusive.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, to me, it's not as intrusive. And that was background is here is I kind of had an idea and proposed something similar to this. The one concern I have with this particular drawing is, and where you see the 60 or the 44 foot and the bollards at each end, it seems like those ought to come in a little bit closer to the curb so that you don't have somebody driving through the crosswalk. Does that make sense to you?
There's no curb there. It's just painted.
Yeah, but if you move the bollard, the two that are on each end of that 44 foot, a little bit to the north being up, because you could drive a car through the crosswalk from 64th to Brazee without going on Sacramento Street. And when I suggested something very similar to this, I actually had the 3 bollards set back a little bit in the yellow paint so that that was impossible, so that you couldn't drive through there. But this to me looks a whole lot better than 13 planters. It just doesn't look as intrusive. It simplifies the thing a lot. And I mean, I'm for it. Let's put it that way.
What does the
Hey.
circle B mean? What is the circle?
B just means install
Oh.
7 58-inch planters at designated. It's just
I see.
a note.
Okay. And then it says, see page 3 for standard detail. Is that detail of each individual planter when they did the side view with the
Right.
reflector?
And he didn't send that along with this drawing.
Okay.
So if people are relatively supportive of this, what do we do with this? Do another flyer for the neighbors?
It's going to go back to the board, right? This is going to go to the board.
It can.
I thought that's what we had kind of thought at the board meeting, because of there were some objections about a vote, and so we had said, okay, well, now it's going to the land use committee, and then eventually it'll go back to the board for the vote.
I just think we have to decide how we're going to inform neighbors and if it's worth taking another poll.
Yeah, no,
I don't think you'll get any different answer than we had last time.
I don't know if you need a poll, but I do think they need to be informed. If you're going to go back to the board for the next board meeting or whenever it is and vote, the board's going to vote, then I'm happy to pass out flyers for that.
The board meeting will be in November, because we won't have a meeting next month that I'm aware of, because we have a general membership meeting.
Carrie's right.
Okay. Carrie, I walked through there a fair amount. I want to tell you that a car can be driven in the area that you're talking about right now. They might hit a candlestick or two, but it's open. I couldn't understand why it was so open there, but a car can be driven through. I do have a problem with lack of accessibility on that corner. That southernmost curb sidewalk there isn't ramped, so someone with a wheelchair cannot drop down into that crosswalk off of 64th.
Are you talking over here?
No, over on 64th and Brazee there.
Straight up north, straight up north.
No, other side, not
there?
that east side. That's got a ramp,
Down,
but
down.
go down.
That
That
one.
is not ramped. That is not accessible. And one of the people who has volunteered to help maintain the planters is impaired and would need that accessibility. I just don't understand why that wasn't taken care of. So I would request that be fixed. Make that accessible.
Wasn't supposed to be a crossing point. They didn't think it through.
It did not, but now it is, and it needs to be accessible. Also, people cut through. They don't always walk up onto, if they're crossing from east to west across 64th, they don't always go up onto the sidewalk. They angle to the left and cut right through the yellow paint to get on the crosswalk there.
Every morning.
Yeah.
Every morning I do it.
Yeah.
It's funny, I'm not even going to vote on this because I'm a broken record, but I drove home last night with a friend from a social event, and we came down Sacramento, and he was completely confused on what to do. It is such a cluster.
Yeah.
That it's horrible. And I still want to, regardless what we do now, I want to hold PBOT accountable for making something that accomplishes safe crossing and safe driving. And none of this does any of that.
No.
And the other thing with this thing is the data they have is from 2017 on speeding. They never took measurements after they put up the temporary barriers to see if it slowed anybody down. And they won't take measurements for another year on if the stuff they put in the middle of Sacramento has truly slowed anybody down. And I guarantee you that it hasn't, because I watch idiots on their phones every day driving down that street at 35 or 40. So I would rather that I would hope that we would push to truly slow this down and truly make it safe for kids, because this is not accomplished it.
The way to make it safest for kids is just to direct them down Brzee.
I agree, and it would have been less expensive, and we could have put a traffic circle right there, and a traffic circle would have stopped it, and we could have had a crosswalk down Brzee. Less expensive and would have been better.
Safer for the kids.
Yep.
I didn't realize that Brzee is a safe routes to school.
Yes,
From
it is.
Brzee down to 59th. I learned that from the newspaper, that is a designated route. So they did not need to try and direct school traffic, walking traffic along Sacramento with this crosswalk. But be that as it may, here it is. I would like to send it back to the board for a vote. I'd be happy to put out flyers. I would like to request that ramp be put in at that corner on the sidewalk.
So I will reach out to Scott Cohen and ask him about the ramp, even though that might be outside of PBOT's jurisdiction.
Oh,
I don't know.
Who would it be?
I don't know.
Oh, well, I don't see how you
PBOT
can direct children across that without ADA accessibility. Across that crosswalk on a safe routes to school. I just don't get it.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
So we will bring this to the board meeting for them to vote on. Sharon will distribute some flyers to key residents around there, informing them of the November board meeting where action will be taken on this.
And this will be the picture?
And this will be the picture.
Okay.
So, sorry, Kelly, the action that we are recommending is what? That we're okay with this plan?
I think we're recommending that it be forwarded to the board for their action. I'm not sure that we have to vote. Do we need to vote?
No, we can, but we are to recommend an action, I thought was what the committee does.
Correct. We're recommending that this layout be taken to the board
For their decision.
for their decision. So I
With-
probably
with
need a
our
motion.
approval or without, or with no discussion. I mean,
I'm sorry,
I think
Terry.
that's what Ben is asking. Usually when we send something to the board, we make a recommendation along with it and not just send it, here it is. And that's, so, I mean, we can do it that way.
So maybe someone would be interested in making a motion as to what we take to the board as a recommendation.
I make a motion that this draft that you have posted with a recommendation for an ADA accessible ramp at that corner be made, and I recommend it go back to the board for their review and vote.
Okay, a second to that motion.
I'll second the motion. I do want to clarify, are you saying that, Sharon, you're recommending it to the board for a vote, but are we putting a recommendation with this other than the ramp?
Well, I think, Terry, we're recommending that this is the layout that
Is acceptable.
is acceptable.
Okay, okay, that's fine, but the motion didn't quite say that. That's the reason why I was asking.
You can restate it.
And as I say, I seconded the motion, but I would like to see it a little bit more clear.
Do you want to make a different motion?
Or Sharon, do you want to tweak yours a little?
The intent of my motion is that this draft with the 7 planters that are diagrammed here is acceptable to the Land Use and Transportation Committee, and that it be forwarded back to the board for their full consideration and a vote, with the addition of an accessible ramp placed on the corner at that intersection. How do you define that corner? The northwest corner?
The northwest corner facing Sacramento Street.
Right, and the south end of that have an accessible ramp onto the crosswalk, onto the new crosswalk.
So I will re-up my second. I think that's a better explanation of what we're doing.
Okay.
And Kelly, this is Jenny. I have a question for you. Is the thing, like, do we need to say to them, we recommend that you approve this, or are we just saying we recommend you vote on this?
I think we recommend that they approve it.
Okay, I think that might be the piece that's missing from the statement.
Okay.
Okay, we'll add that to the motion. And Nick has all this totally down.
I will be reviewing the tape to clean this up.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, so the motion is approved. Thank you all. Okay, next is the concrete bollards and the signage at 64th and Sacramento. So let me get out of that.
Wasn't that something that Mr. Schneider was going to call about?
Mr. Schneider was interested in the visuals that Scott provided me, and he was going to craft a letter to Scott Cohen at PMOT. And so I forwarded him the 2 pictures. So just a little bit of backup for the people that weren't at the board meeting, which is Ben and Jenny and maybe some others. So at 64th, back in April, we had a discussion with Scott Cohen, which essentially said, you know, can we take the signage in these bollards and can we move them to the curbside? And he said yes to the signage at 62nd, but he told us no to the signage at 64th because the engineering had been completed and he wasn't willing to go back to re-engineer this solution. And I had led some of the neighbors that were on one of the previous land use and transportation meetings to believe that Scott had agreed to move the signage to the curbside, which was essentially not true. So Tamara had taken this issue on, and she had said that she was very unhappy with what Scott had said, and she said that she would be talking to his boss, Chris Warner, who is the director of PBOT, and she would also be going to city council to get this design overturned. So when I reached out to Scott, I said, would there be a possibility that we could pay to have these signs removed from the bollards and put into the curbside? Would there be a possibility that you could use these signs in another location somewhere in another slow streets project? And he pretty much said no. And then I pointed out the challenge with the view corridor. So what he said, and I'm going to read this for everybody's edification. I conducted a site visit at 64th and Brazil to see how the slow streets installation on Northeast Sacramento looked. From the corner, the signs are not blocking the view of Mount Hood. In addition, after reading the 1991 ordinance, I learned that the viewpoint for the area is not on the sidewalk on the north side of Sacramento, but on the south side of Northeast Sacramento along the bluff. See snipped image from ordinance, which is what I'm showing here. Based on the fact that the slow streets installations are not blocking the view and the ordinance's designation for the viewpoint on the south side of Northeast Sacramento, we are not planning on moving the signs. I've attached 3 images to illustrate. So this is one of the images. This is another one of the images that shows the bollard and the signs. Lovely, isn't it?
3 being tagged.
Yeah, it's interesting where he took that from too, right where I want the ramp.
And then
No,
this is the
no.
third.
That's incorrect. I'm sorry.
This is the third image that he sent.
And Kelly,
What view is he talking about? What view? I don't see what view he's referring to. You can't see Mount Hood from that view.
Well, it's covered in smoke.
Well, it's also covered in vegetation. That the view has been grossly narrowed because of vegetation, which they can ask to have clipped.
Well, the question that I brought up at our last meeting, and it's the same question I have here. It's my understanding, and Ben would probably know this, that the houses, or at least a number of the properties on Sacramento Street, are paying extra in taxes for the view they have, for the view corridor. That is income for the city. And if the view corridor is blocked, they shouldn't be getting that extra income. So it's kind of a catch-22 here.
I just don't think there's much that we can do at this point.
Well, we'd have to go back and look at some documents. I see on page 37 of that document, that map that you have is from page 67 of the document. And it says a scenic viewpoint is the location from which to enjoy a scenic view. A viewpoint may be a generalized location, such as a butte, and includes several vantage points where the view may be seen to best advantage or a single observation point. And so I would say that this is a generalized location and that there are several areas, or at least there were several areas of which to take on this view. So for him to state that it was one, that it's on the south side, he doesn't know that for a fact. He made that up by looking at that. He's trying to justify what he's doing. From my view, it's at the tip of the triangular shaped lot, kind of where this particular picture is from. So we'd have to go back and look at some other things. And I can do some scrounging around and see if I can find the documents that were used and the information that was used to select this particular area.
My suggestion is, if we want to challenge it, that we just go right to the top, and being the commissioner in charge, not that she's going to respond, but for community compatibility or whatever, I wouldn't, if we do that, I wouldn't specifically mention Scott's name. I would just say, hey, this has been done. This is a view corridor. It violates the view corridor, and go from there without bringing up people's names that are involved with this.
I
as a
don't,
neighbor.
I don't know that Peabot's going to listen to any of that.
Yeah, they don't listen to anybody, to be honest with you, except
I-
who they want to hear.
No,
So-
we'll have to do the research and go over his head.
I keep thinking if you go back to data, data should drive a decision. And if the purpose in these, so separate the crosswalk from the things we're talking about now, out in the middle, the purpose of them was to slow traffic. And that's a good goal. I agree with that. I want to slow traffic down. Peabot took measurements in 2017, and they didn't take measurements again after that. They put in those temporary things during COVID, and they never took measurements. Did those temporary things they put in slow traffic? They say it did. We want it to. There is no data, and I can only say from my walking my dog several times a day, riding my bike, driving down that street, people are still driving nutty and fast. It did not solve the problem. We should push them to solve the problem. Slow traffic. This has not done it. What are the alternatives? And pull those things out. And then hold them accountable to the goal.
I think it's a really dangerous thing for the Land Use and Transportation Committee to be recommending the adoption of this latest design by Scott Cohen. It's just not acceptable. And it doesn't solve the problem. The problem is solved in a very simple manner. I'm sorry, I'm a broken record, but I feel very passionately about this. It's ridiculous.
You're talking
over design.
You're talking about this new draft with the 7 planters.
Yes, I think it's ridiculous.
Okay. And so again, I don't care if you're a broken record or not, your view would be to just paint a crosswalk there, remove the candlesticks, no additional planters or anything.
No
of that
additional
nature.
planters, get rid of that yellow paint. It's hideous.
I would put that
And
crosswalk
there is-
right down Brzee.
Right down Brzee.
Put a traffic circle out there and slow the traffic down.
It takes you a half a block from the school where there is a crosswalk.
And just as a suggestion, and I can't remember exactly where it is, but if you go over to 102nd and you take Pacific Street to the east, you'll see where Peabot has put in a traffic circle in the middle of a residential area. And that, I think, is what you are suggesting for this intersection. And it does make more sense than all this garbage that's there now. I mean, I will agree with that. But to get Peabot to do something that makes sense anymore, they like to waste money. I'm sorry, but I think Peabot wastes money like crazy. So, but anyway, if anybody that wants to do that, I happen to go to an address to an estate sale that was right near that particular traffic circle. And that's the only reason I know it's there. And this was couple of months ago. I told Sharon about it, but I don't know whether she ever went and looked at it.
Yeah, I would rather have the Land Use and Transportation Committee hold Peabot accountable for slowing down traffic. And if what they've put out hasn't been acceptable, there's going to be no difference by putting the planters. Come up with a new plan.
I'm sorry, you said that they were going to do a traffic study in a year.
That's what Scott Cohen told me. He said they would
Okay.
wait
So
one full year.
So regardless, we have to wait a year of what they do.
Yeah,
So
I could reach out to Scott to see if they would be taking any measurements before a year, because I think my memory tells me that at Alameda and 57th they were thinking of something in 6 months, but I have to go back and look.
I'll forward you the email because him and I went back and forth on it. And maybe it is truly going to be 6 months, but what he communicated to me was 1 full year
After the barriers
after the
been put
installation.
up of those 2 additional barriers.
Yeah, and I said it because it's like there's so many dynamics going on. People driving down the street holding their cell phone, you know, their cars not jumping, I'm exaggerating, but going way too fast over the speed bumps. It has not accomplished what we want. We want a safe street. We want kids to be safe. We want our families to be safe. We want it to look beautiful. It hasn't done any of those things.
Ben, my feeling is that those bollards are actually a safety hazard,
Yeah.
particularly if you have people speeding down the street. I can just see somebody crashing into one of them and being injured, and the city is liable for that.
Yeah. And that could be. My experience again was last night. It was a friend who had never driven to my house, and he couldn't figure out. He's like, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah, how do you get around it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's multiple, that intersection in Sacramento has multiple things. At that intersection, you have the crosswalk that PBOT installed with the candlesticks, and you have the Slow Streets project.
Yeah, they're 2 different projects.
And they're 2 different projects, exactly. And the speeding issue is an overall issue that everywhere in Portland, people are concerned about. So in regards to what this diagram shows, it is only in regards to the crosswalk. And for me, my personal understanding from Scott Cohen is they are not going to remove that crosswalk. And he has stated that people need to be protected when they go through the crosswalk. I don't understand how a candlestick provides protection, but he absolutely refused to remove the candlesticks without some physical barrier to protect the people who are in the crosswalk. And the planters came up as an idea. And there was a discussion, you could just have solid round things there, or you could actually have a planter if people wanted to become invested in maintaining them somehow. But it is my understanding that PBOT and Scott Cohen are not going to take up the paint. They are not going to take up the candlesticks and just leave the crosswalk. That is my understanding. Now, if someone else has another understanding, please let me know. Because
I think you're right, Sharon.
Because we only have 2 choices here. The choice is to leave it as it is, or to accept some modification, which is currently the 7 planters in that diagram. So again, confirm me if I'm right or wrong about that. They're
You're right.
not. Okay.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But that doesn't mean that we have to accept that.
Right. I think it's a mistake for the land use committee to show any kind of approval of that.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, they're going to do what they want to do, but we should demand more.
but if we don't accept the modification now, then we are accepting as it is.
It looks like hell either way. And I don't think it solves the problem either way.
We're only talking about a crosswalk and protecting people crossing the street. That's it. We're not talking about the barriers. We're not talking about the Slow Streets project. We're talking about only that crosswalk. So they are not going to remove it. They're not going to remove the paint. They're not going to remove the candlesticks and just leave the crosswalk. They're not going to do it. So they wants to protect whoever is in it, and the planters are it. So, I mean, if you leave it as it is, we're accepting that.
Here's the thought.
I personally don't want to accept that monstrosity. Not that the thing's much better, but I do think it's somewhat better. And then we can look at the long term.
That's where I'm coming from too. And that's the reason why I initially suggested, 7 planters over 13 planters. But Ben, here's my thought on the issue is there are two issues here. There is the crosswalk and there is the speeding on Sacramento Street. And if the speeding continues with the bollards with the signs in them there, then I think we could take up the whole issue again and recommend the traffic circle, which will deter cars and it will take up some of the space of the crosswalk. So to me, that makes, let's get it as good as we can right now, which I think is the planners, because they're not gonna take up the paint and everything. And when that, whether it's 6 months or a year from now, hopefully it's 6 months from now, and then we can hit them and say, look, what you've done has not created anything that's a safe street here.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I would not accept it, and I would push back and say that you got to come up with, I think the goals are the right goals. You want a safe way for kids to get to school. You want a safe way to cross. That's absolutely great. You want to slow the traffic. Absolutely. They haven't accomplished any of that. And they can do it very simply by going down Brazee, removing all that stuff and putting a traffic circle. And that doesn't mean they're going to do it. I don't think they'll do any of it. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't push for them to be accountable to do the right things.
Well, I agree with you in principle, but knowing what PBOT's going to do, I think Sharon is right. If we don't say, hey, let's put the planners in, we're going to have to live with what's there now.
So, I apologize if I'm being.
No, you're absolutely correct.
Then why do we even do anything? Just let them do what they're going to do. Why don't we go sit with our families and have a nice evening instead of having this discussion if we're just going to allow PBOT to do whatever they want to do?
What would you like to do, Ben?
I would tell them that it's not acceptable. Move it down Brazee, safe walk down the Brazee, and
remove the cross and ask them to remove the crosswalk.
Remove all that mess out there and put in a traffic circle and put the crosswalk down Brazee, and that would be lower maintenance down the road. We'd have a nice little garden in the middle of a traffic circle, and it would probably, I believe, a traffic circle is proven to be a little bit more effective than a bollard.
I believe that one of your neighbors across the street wrote to Scott Cohen and asked for a traffic circle, and he said no. There was no money for that. Said no.
Yeah.
Flat out no. So if you'd like to write again, and ask those and get a statement from him, I'd be fine with that.
I think that we should ask for what we want, even if we expect that they're going to do what they want.
Well, Ben, what we'd like is something that's like what happened at Wisteria.
Yeah, a permanent solution that looks nice.
A permanent solution. And all we've heard is there's not money for that. Now, there might be money for that in the future. I don't know how that would get funded, but we're looking at an interim solution now. And the interim solution is relatively temporary. The planners can be moved. The candlesticks, I think.
Whatever we want, whatever the group wants to do. If you guys want to do the bollards, that's fine. I would keep pushing, and I'll keep sending emails to Scott that we need something more permanent.
Here's kind of my hope. And my hope is that the current commissioner in charge of PBOT gets voted out and that it's reassigned to somebody that will listen. That's what I hope. But we can't guarantee that.
So, yeah, you don't know if the new commissioner will listen anymore either.
Well, it depends on who gets it.
Yeah.
If for some wild card Mingus were to get it, I'm sure Mingus would listen because he does listen to people. Whether he will go along with it or not, I couldn't say, but he does listen to people. He's the best they've got down there, in my opinion.
Andrew, I'm sorry, we were over talking. Thank you. I apologize for talking so much.
No, so maybe can we do both, right? So can we recommend to the board that the board send a letter saying the 7 planters are a better solution now, but the ideal solution would be, this traffic circle, and that, we will continue to push for that solution until it's done, right? So we can say, yeah, we want this slightly better thing, but it's not the best thing. And if that's the letter, so it's clearly stated that that it's not ideal, right? So I think that's the point.
So is that, do you want to make that a motion to the board or a motion for this committee as part of the recommendation to go to the board?
I would make that motion, yes.
Okay, I will second that motion because I agree with you.
Agree with you too. I think as long as we get that point in there, I think that's a good solution.
So basically we made the first motion was we want the planters over what's there now. And the second motion is that the planters long-term are not going to write a letter within the letter, the planters are not the long-term solution, etc. Which,
yes.
yeah.
I just don't know
Oh,
if
we
a
lost you.
traffic circle from a traffic engineering approach worked.
That could be, but that is our proposed ideal solution.
True.
Well, they've got to go around a traffic circle the same way they go around a bollard going eastbound. Going westbound, you're going to have a bigger jog in the street. So it seems like to me that it would be a solution that at least one direction would slow traffic.
I doubt you could fit a traffic circle in there without acquiring. I mean, I don't know how big the right of way is up there, but you need to allow full truck turning around all sides of, to get around it. Those are like pretty big. The intersections that accommodate traffic circles are very, very, very large.
It's a pretty big area there.
And I would, sorry, go ahead. I apologize.
Ideally, someone would pay for a design. And it's my understanding that the people on 42nd and Wisteria self-funded that shoulder extension. That they paid for that themselves. That was not a PBOT paid thing. Was that your understanding, Ben, from Scott?
No, I did not.
It was my understanding they self-funded that.
And that could be.
And then
I thought it had something to do with ADA requirements and the fact that they were paving the street and they combined the projects, but I'm not positive.
And then
I'm sorry. Delay.
Well, Mr. Cohen, with your back and forth with Mr. Cohen, Ben, first it was $130,000 to do a shoulder extension there, and then it was $250,000. And how would people like that tacked onto their property taxes along there? Remember?
That's an engineering way of trying to squash a project.
Well, it was.
I think the thing that we should. So when you propose a solution, then people will find reasons to not. So maybe we shouldn't say a traffic circle. Maybe we should say the solution that's in place truly didn't slow traffic. It's truly not safe for kids. There's safer ways to go. Have your engineers come up with a better way to do this, because there's got to be a better way.
Okay, we'll put all that in the letter.
There are those traffic circles on whatever, is it 53rd or 54th that goes by the New Deal Cafe?
They're on Lincoln.
Traffic.
They're on 54th.
They're on Lincoln,
too.
which is a narrow street.
54, yeah, that's a narrow street too.
Yeah, they're on 54th south of Halsey.
53rd.
53rd, is it? Okay.
Yeah,
you're right, 53rd.
Did
So
you all
they-
see? Did you all see what happened with that Tillamook? And I don't know what it is, 7th, the traffic circle. PBOT is proposing to remove it, and so there was a big public gathering, and PBOT came out last night Anybody hear about that?
7th and Tillamook or 7th and not?
It's Tillamook.
Tillamook.
Just south. Yeah, it's just south and not.
Yeah.
And it would be interesting because that's a street with a yellow line in the middle. So there's
Right.
more traffic on that than Sacramento. So it'd be interesting to know kind of some of the data around that decision.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't read the whole thing, but I just saw a line that they state they're moving away from traffic circles.
That would be interesting. I'm going to ask Scott Cohn if he can give us some info on that. That would be interesting.
That's the first I've heard of that, Nick.
All right, I'm trying to see where it is.
Yeah, there were like, sorry,
At the maps.
there were like 30 people that came out.
There's one on Russell, 7th and Russell, south of Knott and north of, what was that big street there? Well, that's Brazee. You're saying Tillamook.
Well, we don't necessarily have to look at it. It's just that
Well,
they stated they're moving away from traffic
well, I
circles.
want to tell you what happened there. At that traffic circle that I'm looking at on 7th, there was a bicyclist and it has vegetation in it. And there was a bicyclist going around it and hit a car head on. The car could not see the bicyclist. The bicyclist happens to be a judge. So, whether that had anything to do, broke his shoulder, whether that had anything to do with the decision to remove that or not, I don't know. But that happened within the last year. Right?
Is there a bike lane on 7th? If
Yeah,
there's a bike-
it's a bike route. It's a greenway. It's a bike route.
Yeah, so what you have is you have a route with a yellow line in it, and you have a bike route, and they have to go through the same area of the street going around the traffic circle because there isn't room to have a bike lane and a car lane going around the traffic circle in an intersection like that. And I can see how a bicyclist could be hit.
Yeah, it's not at Tillamook. It's at it's actually at 7th and Russell.
I was just wondering more about the general statement that they're moving away from traffic circles, if that's a fact or not.
I will reach out to Scott Cohn to find out what their position is on that, if they have something.
Okay.
They must have something. Maybe it's a one-off, maybe it's not. But I hope he'll provide us some information on that. That'd be good.
Cool.
So should I
where are
revise
we
my
now?
motion?
Yeah, that's what I'm curious to, like, a summary of what we're recommending here.
Did we vote on that second motion?
No.
We
Let's
did
move
not, because we're concerned whether a traffic circle is a viable solution. But something more permanent is, I think, what everybody would like.
Something permanent like a traffic circle is what my motion would be about.
Well, the
Or
motion is
the
on the motion's on the
planner
floor, so we've
solution.
got to either clear it one way or another.
Okay, I will rescind my motion if someone would like to make another motion.
Ben?
Sorry, had to attend to my dog. What was the
You'll make a new motion about a permanent solution in that area?
Yeah, I think if we want to say, go ahead with the new bollards and tag onto it, that there needs to be a review of how effective any of this has been, I'd be fine with that.
A review and proposal.
I don't, so I'm apprehensive to give a proposal because I'm not a traffic engineer, but there should be something. I always thought from the start of this that there should have been options presented with pros and cons, costs, and come up with something that fits the neighborhood and solves the problem. What we have now has fit the budget, but not solved the problem.
and does not fit the neighborhood.
No. But that's subjective. So
Can you
So it was-
restate that? Just state it again, Ben.
we would be okay with the new bollards, but we want a review of how effective this has been with data. And if it has not met the goals, slower traffic, safer kids, we would want new options that we could review.
And visual aesthetics.
Yeah, well, yes, I would like it to look better, but some people take offense when we say that. So
I mean, in regards to the designated viewpoint.
yeah, I would like it to be look like it fits in.
And compatible with the city designated viewpoint.
Yeah, I don't want my block to look like it's at a Walmart.
Yeah, I mean, I think as residents, that's exactly what you want to convey.
Yeah.
So.
Looks like a construction zone now.
Okay, I second the motion.
What is the
Do we,
motion?
Just said it. We don't want our net to look like a Walmart.
Oh,
I'm sure I'll offend somebody by saying that. So
No.
So Ben, can you restate that as a proposal?
so I'm new to this, so I'm not sure how we do this. So what do we say? I propose. Is that how you say this? Or
I make a motion.
okay. So I make the motion. Turn this back on. My dog has got lotion. Got a sick dog.
I'll strike that from the record.
Yes, please. I make a motion that we approve the new planters, the 7. I think that was it is.
Yep.
And we want data that shows the traffic has been calmed and that the crosswalk is safer. And if it has not met the goals, then we want new alternatives that fit the aesthetics of the neighborhood and makes it safe.
I'll second that.
that sounded good, Ben. Good job.
Oh, I'm learning this.
All those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
I
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries.
You slam like a wood hammer now or something?
So do we have 2
gavel.
motions or did we get rid of that other motion?
Just take your shoes off and slam it with the bottom heel of your shoe.
Did we get rid of the other thing that we voted on then? This is the one that's gonna, Go.
One piggybacks the other.
okay, so the ADA change for the sidewalk will be in there
One piggybacks the other.
and the acknowledgement of the scenic viewpoint and fits the aesthetics of the neighborhood. That all fits in there.
Yeah, Nick's got all that.
All right. Lord
This whole
help you.
conversation is,
I think it's
There'll be
clear
one
what we're
motion.
proposing.
All right, thank you.
included ADA.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the intersection and impaired sightlines at Broadway and 47th. So we did not take any action on this. The last thing we heard was from Joe in the Hollywood Neighborhood Association, who thought that this was not necessary. So we have not taken any action on this. So should we?
what is the issue there? I'm not familiar with that one.
At 47th and Broadway, one of our interns at the Neighborhood Association, Joe Anderson, had suggested that a crosswalk or a traffic signal be added to that intersection because it was not safe. And Tamara did a little bit of research and found out that that intersection at Broadway and 47th was designated as a, I can't remember the term, a safe crossing or a crossing of interest. And so we discussed as to what we would do about this, and we essentially did not take any action.
We
And
did
somebody,
vote. Didn't we vote to put in ask for a crosswalk there?
but we haven't written a letter. There's been no action, I guess, from the committee.
And
Oh.
and I had talked to Joe Schaefer, who's chair of the Hollywood Neighborhood Association. She lives on 46th between Broadway and Halsey, and she didn't think it was necessary. That was her comment.
Would it bother her if it's there?
I don't know, but you already, as far as parking goes, you already have some of those intersections or some of those partial corners that are no parking, because you have a lane against, I think on Broadway, the lane comes up the hill eastbound in the parking lane. So, and then on Broadway on the other side, you don't have room, I think, on one of the corners. I don't remember exactly now, because it started out as, do we want to use the view triangle for this intersection? And then it kind of went into a crosswalk type of thing, as I remember the conversation.
Well,
But-
Jenny was at that meeting and Jenny looked up something and we talked about the sight lines and that parking, there would be no additional parking removed to our understanding, and that people go across 47th on both Hancock and Broadway to get to the farmer's market. And there was not one point of objection by anybody at that meeting. And we voted to put in, per my memory, to ask for a crosswalk to be put in there. But if no letter's been written, then I would propose that we write a letter.
Okay, is this another PBOT issue?
I believe it is.
Sure is.
Okay. So do I have a motion?
I make a
Well-
motion that we write to PBOT for installation of a crosswalk across 47th along Broadway.
Okay, is there a second?
Oh, wrong. Me. Can't get my hand in there.
So is that a second, Nick?
Yes, sorry. I'm backwards.
Okay, all those in favor say aye or raise your hand. Jenny, I don't hear you.
Fine.
Oh, yeah, I'm abstaining. I lost a little bit of track of what's been talked about the last 3 or 4 minutes.
Okay, do you have a second to, we are talking about the, doing a crosswalk at 47th and Broadway. If you
Yes.
remember that, we discussed that a few meetings ago, but we took no action. At least I didn't write a letter and Tamara didn't write a letter. So what we're considering now is to write a letter that essentially suggests putting a crosswalk at Broadway and 47th. What do you think, Jenny?
I can't even picture that intersection in my mind. I don't,
It's the north end of the Hollywood Lanai.
what?
There are crosswalks at Hancock. So this would be one block closer to Halsey to have also crosswalks there.
I just can't picture it. Do I need to vote, Kelly?
You
I
don't.
abstain? Okay,
You
I'm
don't.
gonna abstain. I'm abstaining.
Okay,
Sorry,
not a
I'll pay
problem.
attention the rest of the time.
I'll vote for it because I walk through there to work every day pre-COVID, and I will if we ever go back to the office. And it's a horrible intersection to get across. I'm an old man running across the street there. A crosswalk would be nice.
Ben Joy, you are not old.
Okay,
In cars.
I just turned 70, so you're much younger than me.
Not that much.
when's your birthday, Kelly?
In June.
Okay,
Okay, so I'm gonna figure out who to write this letter to. I guess.
Hey, Kelly,
because-
I've got a quick question. Is the crosswalk, I was just looking up the intersection, is the crosswalk that we're proposing on 40, across 47th or across Broadway?
47 or Broadway.
Across 47th from Bond.
Oh, yeah. good
47th,
question.
yeah, at 47th and Broadway, yeah.
So would an eastbound bus, that eastbound, what is that, like the 72, 70, the
77,
77? Would an eastbound bus come around that corner? Like, would they see the crosswalk before they rounded the corner? That's what I'm wondering. Is like, if you're gonna cause, if it's not a stop controlled intersection and you add a crosswalk as a bus, that you're gonna create conflicts between buses that can't see pedestrians.
well, if you put it on the north side of the intersection across 47th, the bus is going to be turning down Broadway. So it won't even affect the bus.
Okay, so the eastbound bus.
Well, both buses,
Okay, so you're putting it on the north. You're putting it north of Broadway on 47th.
across 47th, if you put it on the north side of 47th, I mean, of Broadway at 47th, it's not
Okay.
going to affect the bus because the bus is going to turn on Broadway. The bus only goes one block. The bus comes up Broadway, turns onto 47th, and then goes up Halsey eastbound.
Okay.
So maybe the motion ought to suggest doing it on the north intersection, on the north side only of the intersection. Does that make sense?
Kinda. I don't know. I feel like I have to go look at it or be less tired when I'm looking at a map. But I mean, as long as we're not creating. But I assume PBOT would look at all that before they agreed to put a crosswalk
Yes.
in. So maybe it doesn't
Yes.
matter.
Yes.
Not our problem to solve. Okay.
Not our problem.
Well, I think crosswalks would make people more likely to stop, and this is my street, and a lot of drivers don't feel like they need to stop because there's, no crosswalks, but they'll stop at Hancock.
Okay, moving right along. I have one more item for the agenda. Alameda at 56th and 57th. So the way we left this was essentially PBOT was proceeding with their design of this temporary intersection, regardless of what we said. And I reached out to Scott Cohen a few weeks ago to ask him what the status of construction was. He got back to me today and he said work is going to begin this weekend to implement essentially the one-way traffic that they had suggested on Alameda, regardless of the negative input that our neighborhood and other neighborhood associations gave to PBOT. So he has promised to monitor situations at a number of intersections around this location. And then he says that he will modify the design, should be warranted based on all of these traffic counts that they're going to take. So it's just one more PBOT thing that they're shoving down our throats.
It's their playbook. It's their playbook. The playbook they gave us.
And I encourage the committee to still be optimistic that we can have input to PBOT, that we can modify and help them to come up with better solutions.
We live in
because that's one of our missions.
The thing that's really ridiculous. Excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt. The thing that's really ridiculous.
I was just going to say we live in a wonderful democracy still, and vote if you're not happy.
The thing that's really ridiculous about this, and some of you will probably disagree, is that you've still got the bicycle signal both directions on Alameda that's going to slow down the buses, because this is the only reason they're doing it, is to give an extra minute or something to the buses on Sandy, and I don't think it's going to do it. I don't think it's going to make a whole lot of difference.
Well, they've also stated the overall goal of greenways is to direct cars as much as possible away from greenways, because the idea with greenways is it's a safe place to travel, not in a car.
We've heard that most of the traffic that's on Alameda is internal to that quadrant in our neighborhood association or in our neighborhood boundaries. At least that's what the neighbors close by have said. So I can't verify that in any way. I'm just echoing what has been presented to us.
And I would say Peabody should be listening to bicycle ridership commuting is down. I wish it was up because it's a wonderful way to commute, but it's down. So something is not right.
Well, they're about the only people that they listen to because they certainly don't listen to drivers. All you got to do is look at Cooch Street down at onto the Burnside Bridge, and you've got one lane and it backs up. You got one lane of traffic now coming off of Sandy to the Burnside Bridge, and it backs up in the middle of the day on Saturday, which means more emissions, more fuel consumption, etc.
Okay.
Okay, that's all the agenda items I have for tonight. Anybody else have any input? Jules, would you like to weigh in on anything tonight?
No, I just was curious so that update that you just said about Scott, and when construction was starting and that sort of thing. So, we'll see how it goes. And, I'm not optimistic that anything will change. But it is still good just to be informed. So that's all.
Okay, and thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Well,
Okay, I will
awesome.
entertain a motion to end the meeting early.
Can I
So
ask
moved.
can I ask a question?
Jenny,
Don't kill me here for I don't want to extend the meeting and I don't want to belabor this topic, but just the conversation about recommending to the city adding crosswalks at 47th and Broadway got my head spinning a little bit. So how do we add something like that to is there a list of bin items or something for future meetings for this group to talk about?
a list of what?
Is there a way to add, I guess I'm curious, I'd like to talk a little bit about crosswalks on Halsey, and I don't want to do it right now, but is there a way to add that to a list of things to talk about at a future?
Yeah, absolutely.
How do we do that? Can I do that right? Can I ask that right now?
You can.
Okay, I would like to discuss crosswalks on Halsey between, I think there's no crosswalk between 60th and 74th. So that's 14 blocks with no pedestrian crossing. So getting from this side of the neighborhood over to the max is a dangerous game of Frogger. Anyway, I've written to the city several times about this and gotten nowhere. So
Interestingly enough, Jenny, I live in that area.
yeah.
Right near Providence, and you live on what, 63rd?
Yes.
Okay, I live on 65th, and there are a lot of people that walk from Providence, walk through our neighborhood. Now, whether they go clear down to 63rd or not, I don't know, but they do use 65th and 64th. And they're crossing all the time. And when that was going up, I actually had a meeting with a couple of my neighbors with Sam Adams down at City Hall and suggested that a crosswalk be put in at 65th. And it went nowhere.
Yeah, I don't want to make
Another meeting,
right, to talk about this, but let's talk about it at another meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll add that to the agenda for our next meeting, which would be in October.
Wait.
and you can add
Okay.
anything to an agenda, right? When at the beginning of the
Absolutely.
meeting, you always ask for new items. So Jenny, you can bring up anything you want.
Let's add with the crosswalk. Let's also add vision triangles. There's enough traffic on Halsey, and I pushed, and I actually got my way to keep parking on Halsey by Providence because they were parking in our neighborhood. but we still need a vision triangle because there's enough traffic on Halsey. Sometimes it's hard to get out onto Halsey, particularly if you're making a left-hand turn.
I'm sorry, Terry, but we're going to talk about this at our next meeting.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, let's add vision triangles to the crosswalk issue. That's what I'm getting at.
Okay. I'm going to entertain a motion to terminate our meeting.
One last question. Sorry. So can agenda items be submitted prior to meetings? Email or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything you want.
Okay.
Submit them to Kelly Davis, the co-chair, with yet to be named other co-chair.
Okay.
Okay.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
Third.
Okay for joining tonight. I appreciate it. And we'll see you at the next meeting.
Everybody
Safe-
have a great weekend.
Yep.
Yeah.
Safe journey home, Kelly.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Kelly. Thanks
Okay.
for being solo co-chair.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.